Olá, meus amigos, a minha aqui novamente para mais um vídeo react. Gente, mais um vídeo aqui, um documentário. Esse aqui foi o meu inscrito aqui, o Ricardo me mandou. É a The Abandoned Street Performing with Made It, The Tragedy Passed Away. Eu sei que é um documentário de uma moça aqui, de uma artista do Japão. Eu não abri o vídeo, eu só vi rapidinho assim, para deixar a gente reagir aqui, para conhecer a história dela. E assim, de vez em quando a gente traz, né, gente? Documentário para conhecer um pouco mais dos artistas japoneses e tudo mais aqui. E vamos lá, não tenho a menor ideia, gente, do que é esse documentário. A história dessa moça, a gente vai ver todo mundo junto aqui. Eu, o chat aqui, a gente na live, tá? E vamos lá, né? Oi, Ricardo, boa noite, querido. Como é que você tá, meu mano? Tamo junto, meu jovem. Então, se você não é inscrito no canal, se inscreva, deixe seu like, compartilhe esse vídeo, ative o sininho e... bora lá.
Sayuri was a high school dropout who moved to Tokyo performing on the streets, only to eventually make it as a top-tier anime singer known for her powerful, emotional singing. This may look like an inspirational tale on the outside, and it is, but unlike other artists' success stories, this story is not a happy one. It begins as Sayuri was born in Fukuoka, southern Japan. Amongst this bright city with bright people, Sayuri had always felt out of place. She was someone who could very easily talk others up with a smile and make acquaintances, but not a single one she could earnestly call a friend. There was no inherent reason that she stated, so we may never know why, or perhaps even she didn't know why, but there was always this sort of alienation she felt. Sayuri called this specific feeling suffocation, a theme that would come to be very prevalent in her future works. This feeling would only get worse over time, and although never officially diagnosed, seemed to hint at depression, as she could never feel happy. To quote Sayuri, "Everyone around me looked like they were having so much fun. I felt like I was just kind of floating there. And this was no one's fault but mine. I was the reason. I was the problem." The more she thought like that, the more she isolated herself, and eventually, even as just a kid, Sayuri would become a hikikomori, a phenomenon describing extreme social withdrawal where
Hikikomori é que a pessoa que se isola da sociedade, não é isso, gente? É a pessoa que se afasta de tudo, que é o caso dela aqui, né? E, cara, e no Japão, né, cara, tem... É difícil, cara. Assim, se for falar, isso é outro vídeo pra se falar sobre essa situação, né? De isolamento, de depressão lá no Japão, né? É uma coisa que acontece muito por lá. Cara, eu já vi que vai ser uma história triste. Pelo pouco que eu tô vendo aqui, eu já tô até imaginando tal, né? Mas vamos continuar, vamos lá. É Sayuri ali, eu já vi thumb dela no First Take. Se não me engano, eu já vi thumb lá. Vamos lá, vamos ver.
the victim shuts themselves in their house for extended periods of time. Trying to find a place that she belonged, Sayuri looked into music. She was inspired by the idol band group Super 8 and bought a guitar at 12 years old. Eventually, she got really good and began composing and writing her own songs at just 14. For the first time in her life, Sayuri had found something she could invest her entire...
Inclusive, gente, por isso que, gente, quem tem depressão, alguma coisa, pô, procura... Não só escutar música, se puder estudar música também, isso é muito bom. Principalmente quanto mais jovem, não importa a idade, cara. Porque, cara, a depressão é um negócio que não tem como... Assim, não tem fórmula mágica, né, cara? É uma coisa complicada. Mas a música ajuda muito. Música boa, né, gente? Escutar música boa, música qualidade que vai te deixar em paz. Não música pra você passar raiva, pra você ficar constrangido, né? E realmente, ela começou a estudar música, isso ajuda bastante, né? Não pode não resolver de vez, mas ajuda bastante, mano. Pensa, eu entendo, mano, eu entendo. Cara, é difícil, cara. Eu sei que é difícil. Eu já passei várias situações difíceis também, cara. Um dos motivos do canal aqui, gente, é esse. A gente curtir junto, de aproveitar músicas boas junto pra gente ter um pouco mais de felicidade na vida, né, cara? Acho que a música me ajudou a não entrar em depressão com a morte da minha... exatamente, mano. Exatamente, ó. Não, mas tem música que a gente, pra tirar a gente desse sofrimento, é coisa boba mesmo, sabe? Mas é isso, gente. Vamos continuar, gente. Vamos lá.
Your soul in, get lost in. The suffocation feeling never went away, but this allowed Sayuri to pour these intense feelings into her music, something that would eventually become what makes her music powerful, iconic. At only 14 years old, Sayuri began her music career by performing at live houses. She didn't have the confidence to perform solo at first, so she would duo with someone in a duo called Long Tao, and be solely responsible for performing her self-made songs on the guitar, while her partner sang. But this began to feel wrong. Sayuri wanted to sing alone. After all, her songs were the personal screams of her heart. So very quickly, Sayuri would switch to perform solo, wielding just her guitar and her voice. Sayuri continued this life of living through music, performing at live houses in Fukuoka, until she eventually, somehow, graduated middle school and proceeded to high school. But things only got worse. At high school, she only felt more out of place, and the only thing high school gave her was depression. On the other hand, her music career was actually going pretty.
Só que uma coisa aqui que não foi falada, porque aparentemente parece que ela é filha única. É que é isso? Será? Não falou, pelo menos ele não comentou aqui se ela tinha irmãos. Não falou, na verdade, da família dela, né? Pelo menos até o momento aqui, não foi comentado isso. Se tem, então. Bom, vamos continuar vendo. Porque, gente, eu sei porque eu sou filho único. A gente passa um pouquinho também, não é? A gente tem que aprender a se adaptar um pouco mais, é difícil. Porque você não tem irmãos, não tem convívio, quando você perde pai, mãe, família e tudo mais, a coisa complica mais, né? Por isso que eu tô perguntando, às vezes isso contribui um pouco, né? Não sei, mas vamos continuar.
Good. She consistently performed at live houses, and in 2012, at 15 years old, Sayuri became the youngest in history to win the Grand Prix at the 5th Music Revolution, a competition organized by well-known instrument manufacturer Yamaha. In 2013, her second year of high school, Sayuri couldn't take it anymore. On an impulsive decision, Sayuri took a leave of absence from high school and moved halfway across the country to Japan's capital, Tokyo. When asked if this decision made her feel anxious of her future, she simply responded with, "Music was the only thing I could think of. I didn't consider anything else, so I didn't feel anxious. Making a living on music was just the natural thing to me." Take note that throughout all of this, there hasn't been a single time where Sayuri talked about her parents' reactions regarding this choice, at least from what I could find. We have no idea what the extent of their involvement is in this decision. But anyway, Sayuri moved to Tokyo to make a life through music, and she started with a similar approach, performing in live houses. However, this approach did not work very well here. The audience tended to be very small, and while her singing was very good, she wasn't famous enough, and few people would purposely go to a live house just to see her. Keep in mind that one live house concert consists of several artists, so even if someone did like Sayuri, they'd have to sit through a few other artists they've probably never heard of just to see her sing 2 songs. And that's quite a hard sell. Sayuri then announced that she was holding a one-man live, yet this was looking to also be a failure. With
Caramba. Um show do mês também pareceu 40 ingressos. Bom, a gente assistiu o anime, né? O Bot The Rock, ele mostra um pouco desse daí das casas de show, negócio de vender ingresso e tal. E, caraca, mano. Eu não sei, a gente não tem uma média, né, cara, pra dizer. Eu não sei lá no Japão qual seria uma média boa, assim, pra um show em casa. Em casas de show, né? Quando tem, assim, como seria a média de ingresso. Caramba, mas, pô, vamos lá, vamos continuar, né, gente? Tem muita coisa aqui ainda pra ver, vamos lá.
With only about 40 tickets sold after several announcements as the day of her live was quickly approaching, Sayuri sought for a different option. True, it was a personal goal that she wanted her life's first one-man live to sell out no matter what, but more than anything, she started to dislike the style of live houses. Live houses only provided a small, cramped space for people to listen to her, and are generally not interactive. The audience aren't allowed to talk, it never reaches anyone online, and it's literally just her performing to like 20 people. This was the polar opposite of what Sayuri wanted. The entire point of her music was an emotional scream of desperation, of how lonely and alienated she felt. And she wanted this emotion to reach many others that could possibly relate, to tell them that they weren't alone. And live houses managed to do none of these at a large scale. So how would Sayuri manage to reach many people and sell her concert tickets? That's right, to the streets. In 2014 September, after 1 year of performing at live houses, Sayuri began what she would be known for to this very day, street performances. She'd perform 4 to 5 times a week at the heart of Tokyo, mainly around Shinjuku, Shibuya, and Kichijoji, to show and describe the feeling of suffocating she had always felt her entire life. Sayuri always performed on the street in a poncho, bare feet. She gets dirty, yes, but Sayuri says it helped her feel like she's one with the land, to give her that raw feeling that she really did perform there on the street. And you can tell what she means because raw is the best way to describe her voice, living up to her name, Hypoxia Girl Sayuri. This was the feeling she had
violãozinho,
felt
mano.
her entire life, put up on full display. Street performances became everything Sayuri lived for. It's not like she blew up immediately, but every person that purposely stopped to listen to her gave her such a sense of meaning. And with such a consistent schedule and frequency, Sayuri singing on these streets would become a norm, and she slowly built a small but steady fan base for herself. People passing by these areas daily would be like, "Oh, Sayuri's singing again, let's go watch." As
Então, isso é uma... Vejo muito documentário no Japão, isso é muito legal, né? Eu sei que é difícil lá, uma pessoa lá persevera pra caramba, ela mesmo perseverou bastante aqui. Você faz uma coisa bem feita lá, o pessoal sabe que você tá lá, né? O pessoal começa a ir, vai acompanhar todo dia, isso é muito legal. Você vai começando a formar um grupinho ali que te apoia, né, cara? Isso é bem bacana, mano. Eu tô uma vez no YouTube também, uma menina que fazia, acho que era onigiri. Era alguma coisa assim, uma comida japonesa, e todo mundo conhecia ela na cidade, cara. Isso é muito legal. E lá tem bastante, na verdade, lá tem bastante performance de rua, né? A gente vê bastante, assim, até nos animes de música eles mostram muito isso daí, cara. Isso é bem bacana, mano. Vamos continuar, vamos lá.
as if a normal occurrence on a normal day. Combine that with an incredibly powerful and uniquely high-pitched voice with some of the most raw, emotional singing, and bam, she had a formula to success. After these street performances, she shilled and sold the tickets to her one-man live, and they sold like hotcakes. The tickets soon ran out, and her dream of performing a fully seated one-man live as her first came true the next year in 2015 March, where Sayuri performed alone on the stage of Tsutaya Honest. But again, rather than the numbers, it was the human connection that mattered the most.
Nossa, cara, caramba.
A very distinct story Sayuri once told that changed her entire perspective of doing street lives was the time she met a homeless person. The homeless man was simply listening to her sing, and after the street live, came up to talk to her. The man liked her singing so much that he wanted to attend her concert, and so Sayuri told him the date, gave him a map, and pointed him towards the venue. However, this was a homeless man. He didn't have a phone or a watch and couldn't tell the time. Hence, on the day of the live, the man sincerely arrived several hours before the starting time, even getting himself flagged as suspicious by the staff. But in the end, he managed to watch the whole thing from the front row. It was seeing this specific man while on stage that made Sayuri realize her songs were really reaching different people facing different personal problems of their own, and that was the very essence of what a street live meant to her. I truly believe that
ela que é um exemplo de coisa que eu falo, cara, isso é muito bom, cara. A tua música chegar em várias pessoas que estão à sua volta. Cara, ela tinha essa preocupação, né, cara? Caramba, mano. Que, bom, eu tô até imaginando como é que vai ser o fim dessa história, né? Mas ela tinha essa preocupação, né, cara, das músicas chegando nas pessoas, de ter um contato com as pessoas, de levar a música pra quem tá lá ouvindo, sabe? Não uma coisa só comercial. Literalmente, ela não é nada comercial, ela é totalmente sentimento, e ela queria compartilhar esse sentimento com a música, cara. Isso é muito legal, isso aí. Isso é muito bacana, cara. Bom, vamos continuar, que eu imagino que, né, final disso aqui, vamos lá.
these acts of kindness and deep feelings are the reason Sayuri had become so successful and is able to sing the way she does. It's pure emotion, the beauty of the human soul. Following the success of her first one-man live, Sayuri would come to make wave after wave in the Japanese music industry. In 2015, the same year as the concert, she would finally make her major debut as a full-blown artist with the iconic Mikazuki, which would also be the ending song of Game of Laplace, the anime. The MV is particularly special as it's a mix of 2D and 3D, and would begin Sayuri's official title as a 2.5D parallel singer, with an anime character expressing the feelings of suffocation Sayuri had felt her entire life. Hence the official artist name, Hypoxia Girl Sayuri. Next year in 2016, another viral anime song would come, in Sore wa Chisana Hikari no Yona, as the ending song of Erased. In April, Sayuri would once again hold a one-man live, but things went so differently this time. After just 1 year, the tickets sold out in seconds, literal seconds, forcing the staff to add 3 additional lives. In the same year, Sayuri would release 2 more singles, the third single being Lula Da Lula Lula La Lula. No, that's like the name. The song she sang to win the Grand Prix at Yamaha's competition back then. And the fourth single, Ruraregai Girl, in collaboration with Radwimps, who created the song for her. Yes, the very famous Radwimps that did the songs for the very famous Your Name. Keep in mind, this collaboration happened just about half a year after the release of Your Name, when Radwimps was blowing up, leading Sayuri to also gain a massive following. The momentum did not stop in 2017. The next viral anime song, Heiko-sen, the ED of Scum's Wish, was released. It's incredible how it feels like every single Sayuri anime song just blows up. And finally, with all these singles, Sayuri finally released her first official album, which
pelo que eu vi aqui, ela fazia muita... Deixa eu voltar só um pouquinho. Abertura desses animes mais o romance ou mais como é que é o nome? Slice Dice, não é isso? Slice of Life lá, enfim. Esses não é mais de drama, né? Esses animes mais calmos. Porque é que aqui a galera não acompanha tanto, né? É um pouco mais nichado, assim. Mas aquele anime, eu tenho aquele passou aqui do filme que eu já vi a capa dele. Agora eu tô curioso pra ver, mano. Quando eu lembro que lançou no cinema, eles tinham anunciado. Fizeram até uma propagandazinha. Bom, vamos continuar, vamos lá.
It's like every single Sayuri anime song just blows up. And finally, with all these singles, Sayuri finally released her first official album, which broke her personal records, reaching a top 1 on the Oricon Daily albums and top 3 on the weekly albums, marking her first ever top 3. These numbers weren't just for show either. I haven't mentioned it yet, but even after her major debut as an official artist, Sayuri didn't stop doing street lives. After all, they were the essence of what she loved about performing music. Unfortunately, this would start to spiral a bit out of control. As Sayuri was getting more and more popular, the number of people stopping by to listen gradually increased, until pathways started being blocked and it was causing trouble to the general public. There was literally a time recorded when Sayuri had to be stopped mid-performance by the police. To combat this, Sayuri started doing more organized street lives, gaining permission from the authorities and setting up a small stage
somewhere. Vamos lá, né? Parado pra polícia pode ser. Aqui o policial tá de boa, ela também. Normal. Daí conversado com ela se... Ó, tu vê como é que é artista, né? Uma boa artista. Ela só começou a organizar mais. Ela não xingou o policial, não maltratou, não. Não, só pegou e começou a organizar mais, porque realmente tava uma questão de logística. O policial tá de boa aqui, trocando ideia, tudo tranquilo. Caramba, né? Que menina legal, velho. Pomba.
They started doing more organized street lives, gaining permission from the authorities and setting up a small stage somewhere on the streets. This street life at Shinjuku Station in 2017 that garnered an audience of over 2,000 people just came to show how far her street performances had come. And her professional artist career was also still on the rise. I am not going to go by everything year by year anymore, but some incredible tie-ups she's had are a Fate song, a collab with huge J-rock artist My First Story in the form of song Reme, which was also the OP of Golden Kamuy Season 2, an ED for Boku no Hero that helped her reach the mainstream shonen audience, an ED for Fairy Tail 2.0, the Wish version. She was invited to big music festivals, did big concerts, even overseas in LA and Germany, and her fame reached new heights. Sayuri had become an icon as a top-tier Annie singer. And finally, the grandest of all in 2022, her greatest and last ever single, Hananoto for Licorice Recoil. The song essentially became a huge meme in Japan. It blew up. Hananoto even won Grand Prix at the 2022 Annie Song Awards. I love this song. Can you tell? But after the release of her second album, ironically named after her own name, Hypoxia Girl, things would eventually take a turn for the worse. In 2023, there were no big releases, but Sayuri did continue her concerts as always with great success. However, 2024 was when everything would change. The year started out happy in March with a very sudden marriage announcement to artist Ama Arashi. Looking back, it seemed as if they had worked together on several projects, so that's probably how they met, and everyone was happy for them. However, soon in July, Sayuri would announce a hiatus because of being diagnosed with functional dysphoria, a kind of voice disorder where essentially her voice quality is impaired, but there's no obvious physical or neurological reason. That was fine, I guess. Artists and VTubers face voice and throat issues all the time. Everyone wished her a speedy recovery and went about their own days. However, out of nowhere on September 27th, a sombering announcement would be made. Sayuri had passed away a week before on September 20th, and her funeral had already been held with all respect to the privacy of her family. Everyone was at a loss of words. It really just came out of nowhere. I do want to make one thing clear. There is quite a lot of misinformation that she died of functional dysphoria, which is not true. Functional dysphoria is only a condition that affects your throat muscle.
Meu Deus, cara, de repente, assim... Caraca, mano, que baque, cara. Deixa eu voltar um pouquinho aqui. Nossa, cara, que baque, mano. Meu Deus do céu.
All respect to the privacy of her family. Everyone was at a loss of words. It really just came out of nowhere. I do want to make one thing clear. There is quite a lot of misinformation that she
disfonia funcional,
died
não tem,
of functional
negócio
dysphoria,
não é
which is
tumor,
not
não é
true.
câncer.
Functional dysphoria is only a condition that affects your throat muscles. It doesn't kill people. Ama-adashi,
Então, essa disfonia que ele falou, eu não conhecia isso aí pelo nome, não sei se eu já tive isso também. Mas isso aí, pelo que ele explicou aqui, é uma inflamação na garganta, né? Um desgaste vocal. Realmente não é isso, cara. Só que ela já tava com alguma coisa e não falaram, meu Deus, cara.
which is not true. Functional dysphoria is only a condition that affects your throat muscles. It doesn't kill people. Ama-adashi, Sayuri's husband, mentioned that Sayuri had been battling a chronic illness for quite a while now. So what likely happened was that she passed away due to this chronic illness, and the functional dysphoria was some side effect. However, what this illness is and what she exactly died of was never officially announced, and we will probably never know. But one thing is for sure, Sayuri loved music to...
Cara, isso é uma coisa complicada, né? Assim, é o que eu falo, a gente entende essa questão deles serem reservados com os artistas no Japão, mas ao mesmo tempo fica sem saber, né? Porque ele mesmo já tá falando que até hoje não se sabe, então, porque essa disfonia foi pode acontecer mesmo, uma consequência de uma outra doença. Agora, o que foi, né? E realmente lá tem muito, às vezes pedidos familiares também, né? Não sei como foi feito um reservado, eles pedem pra não divulgar, não sei. Caramba.
Never officially announced, and we will probably never know. But one thing is for sure, Sayuri loved music to the very end. Her very last post online was a post during her hiatus, stating how frustrated she was that she couldn't sing properly. And this was when she was presumably fighting a chronic illness. From the beginning to the very end, music really was Sayuri's entire life. Everyone was devastated. The fans, myself included of course, but I can't imagine what her husband must have felt. Must be still feeling right now. In the message he posted shortly after the announcement, it reads, as she battled a chronic illness, she was passionate about music until the very end. And if I may say something a little out of character, I was incredibly happy to be your husband. Even though you proposed to me so suddenly and just a year later, I found myself as the chief mourner. Only Sayuri and I could have lived such a life. Thank you for choosing me and believing in me. I will always be by your side. I love you. Fans then realized that the song he created about 3 weeks prior to the announcement, Fleeting Girl, was actually about Sayuri. I genuinely cannot imagine what this man had to go through. My deepest condolences to him. Sayuri was an incredible artist.
Meu Deus, cara, agora eu me coloquei no lugar dele também, cara, do esposo, hein? Pô, mano. Tava um pouco tempo de casados, né? Caraca, que barra, hein, mano? Puta, mano. Caramba, gente, fala, ó, eu conheci agora a Sayuri, assim, eu tava vendo esse documentário, agora que eu tô conhecendo mais direito ela. Eu só vi algumas thumbs de vídeo, não cheguei nem a fazer algum react dela. Mas caraca, o pouco que eu tô vendo aqui, cara, foi caraca, que triste, cara. Meu Deus do céu, cara. Vamos continuar, vamos lá.
I genuinely cannot imagine what this man had to go through. My deepest condolences to him. Sayuri was an incredible artist who built everything up from zero with her sheer love for music. She once, a long time ago, mentioned always feeling isolated and never able to fully love herself. Years after the statement, she grew to a level that would be unbelievable to the her in 2015 and reach many, many fans across the world. I myself have fantastic memories of dragging 3 of my friends to a live house concert of hers and shilling her music to them. I even remember at that live, someone happened to accidentally fall over, and Sayuri immediately stopped the live mid-singing to check if the person was alright. I remember thinking, she really is kind. She really does care about her fans. With the new upcoming Licorice Recoil shorts, I just wanted to make this video as a tribute to her for singing the iconic ending song of the series. Rest in peace, Sayuri. We will never forget you.
Caramba, gente. Aqui. Um pouquinho, né? Caramba, mano. Deixa eu ver aqui. Nossa, cara, novinha, cara. Muito nova, cara. Caramba, gente. Olha, só pra vocês, viu? Poxa vida. Foi bom, assim, é bom pegar essas histórias, assim, sem a gente conhecer direito o... como é que fala? Sem a gente conhecer um pouco a história da pessoa, porque você vê desde o começo, né? Não sabe, como eu falei, não tinha visto nada da Sayuri na internet, só vi uma thumb e lembrei dela nessa thumb ali, que acho que ela foi no First Take, se eu não me engano. E aí eu fui ver agora um monte de música, alguns animes que eu assisti também, nem sabia que ela tinha participado também. Caraca, a menina se doou tanto, cara. Sabe, ela é um tipo de artista que eu falo que faz falta no mundo, cara. Meu Deus, não, vai fazer falta no mundo, porque essa gentileza dela com os fãs, com tudo, esse carinho que ela tinha com as pessoas, cara. Nossa, esse é o seu tipo de artista que a gente precisa, cara. É pela pessoa dela, né? Que ele fala que é a música é um reflexo da pessoa que você é, cara. E deu pra ver que ela, com todos os problemas e dificuldades que ela tinha, com toda a dificuldade que ela tinha, essa coisa social, tal, depressão, caraca, a menina tava lá, mano. A menina foi, estudou música, começou a se erguer e foi, caramba, e tava. Um cuidado, uma educação. O menino falou agora no final, caramba, que a pessoa tropeçou durante o show, ela foi lá, parou o show pra ver se a pessoa tava bem. Gente, isso é uma caridade. Docilidade, um amor com o próximo. Cara, agora eu fiquei triste, gente. Eu fiquei triste, sério mesmo. Aqui me deu um aperto no coração agora de saber dessa menina aqui. Não sabia essa história, não. Ai, cara. Eu posso falar, cara. Que Deus abençoe a família, cara. O nosso esposo dela, cara. Que barra, hein? Caramba, meu mano. Essa é aquela que a gente, como homem, assim, a gente vê que tem uma pessoa como ela, como esposa, cara. É uma bênção, cara. E imagina o que foi pra ele passar isso daí, né, cara? Caraca. Gente, é isso. Sayuri, né? Nasceu em 96, faleceu agora em 2024. Bom, você que estiver vendo, se você conhecia, tá? Deixa aí nos comentários, tá? Eu vou... Deixa aí nos comentários se você já conhecia a Sayuri, a história dela. Realmente é uma história aqui que, olha, valeu a pena, viu? Caraca. Uma história muito uma pessoa que vai fazer falta no mundo. Uma artista que vai fazer muita falta, viu? Gente, então foi isso. Muito obrigado. Você que viu esse vídeo gravado, tá bom? Muito obrigado, tá bom? Se inscreva no canal. Deixe seu like, compartilhe. Muito obrigado e até uma próxima.